Welcome, adventure seekers. We're uncommon voyagers, otherwise known as Mandy and Greg, Brisbane, Australia's almost empty nesters, about to turn our midlife crisis into an Italian escapade. Our mission? Spend 2025 getting ready to make the life-changing move to Italy. We'll be juggling home renovations, Italian house hunting, planning slow travel, prepping our kids to survive without us, and cramming our entire life into 2 suitcases. If you love big dreams with a sprinkling of chaos, we'd love for you to come along for the ride. Hit subscribe. It'll be bellissimo. Hi, welcome back to Uncommon Voyagers. Today I want to talk to you about Popoli and Sulmona. So these are two of my favourite places in Abruzzo and have both always been at the top of my list. I have done a separate video for Poppoli previously, but today I thought it might be worth doing a little bit of a side by side with them both, especially since I feel like I've found two really great kind of budget properties. So it's very, very difficult, in my opinion, to find anything that isn't literally a falling down shack or a, you know, an empty shell that's just stone. So I was actually really excited to find these two options that I want to talk about today. So first up, I'll be talking about Poppoli and then we'll move on to Sulmona. So, to jump straight in Poppoli, I found a property. However, I just thought I'd give you a little bit of oversight, which is essentially that we have a population of 5,000 and it's in the province of Pescara. So, for Poppoli, it's a sweet spot with the population because it also means that means there's a level of infrastructure. But jumping straight into the property, this is the outside that you can see. So we've got pictures of the exterior and internal staircase. So obviously a bit of a paint or some exposed stone or, zhuzhing it up a little bit would be absolutely amazing. Internal staircase that you don't have to share with anyone else is for your use only. So you walk up the little steps where the wrought iron is in the exterior picture, and then that brings you straight into this internal staircase. So looking at the picture as well, it's not the very top floor that you see from the exterior. Now, in terms of when you get to the top of those stairs, as you can kind of see in both, you get to an entry hallway. Now, you can't really see it in the picture in this aspect, but there are actually two doors, one that goes directly into a lounge room and then one that goes into the hallway. So the good news is that you have an option in terms of which door you'd like to use, because I do have an idea for that kind of in terms of moving a wall if a geometer says that I could do so. So, or even if someone else had that thought, the option is there's two doors there. So those the hallway actually brings you straight into the kitchen area if you walk straight ahead. So from what I can see, it actually looks like quite a large kitchen. Unfortunately, there's no natural light in there, only what's coming through from the door. So I'd even be inclined to potentially put like a light, like a glass door down at the bottom of the stairs to let that natural light kind of seep up into the kitchen. You can also see in the kitchen dining, there's like a little open area that goes into a storage room, which we're talking about now. So that's the storage pantry. It's a bit of a wasted room as far as I can see. Might work as a bedroom at some point if all my shuffling around works, or potentially it gets completely opened up into a shared dining, kitchen, kind of living area. It would just really depend on, in the small room, you can see that kind of that wall that separates the hallway from the small room. If that wall could go or be moved, that would be amazing. So looking now through the small room, if you were standing in the lounge room rather than in the kitchen, there's also this little wasted room that has a bed in there. Um, that to me is more of a thoroughfare. So you're also looking in the lounge area. Now that's to the left. When you can also walk in that door at the top of the stairs that I talked about to get into this area. And the little door that you see off to the left is actually what goes into the bathroom. But it is nice and bright in there with the two windows. So as you can see in these pictures, there are two windows which do let a lot of light in, which is quite wonderful. The only thing is, it's quite an interesting choice for this room, but not only have they got a big old dining table in there, they've also decided to kind of use it as a bedroom as well. So it may just be that they needed the beds and that this is a bit of a pied a terre, and everyone just kind of bunks in if they come here for a holiday. Whatever the reason is, there was a decision made to make the lounge area into a bedroom as well. So as you can see, where I've got lounge slash bedroom, that's actually next to the dining room table. Now, if you actually look back to the left door is the one I was talking about. So when you get to the top of the stairs, you get those two door options. I would actually be using this as my main door, the one that goes into the lounge, if I was allowed to remove a wall and close off that door at the top of the steps that kind of gives you that wasted hallway into the kitchen. It would all really come down to what doors you can remove. Now, this is the only real official bedroom, and this is actually off the lounge room. You can kind of see that dining room table in there just to give you an idea of where it's situated. It's a really, really thick wall there, so I don't see any walls coming down there, no matter what a geometer says, but I could imagine potentially trying to close that room up so that it becomes more of a bedroom that you could enter from a different wall, essentially, from that small room. This is a sad little bathroom, and I use the word bathroom very loosely. Obviously, it's got a toilet there. You do have to go up a couple of steps from the lounge room to get into it, so it's been tacked on above the stairwell at some point, and it does have a shower there. It's more of a wet room. I wouldn't call it an official bathroom though, because you'd just be standing over the bidet, kind of cleaning yourself. This is the only bathroom in this property, so you definitely need to rethink that. This is the street scene as you look out the window, so no real official views to speak of. And when I say official views, usually someone wants to see some rolling hills or some seaside. You can see a bit of a hill out the window if you crane your neck, but mostly you're looking at a street scene, which isn't awful. I actually quite like to see a street scene, but yeah, if you're really hankering for views, this is probably not going to work for you because you are just looking at the street scene. Now we're coming up into, they did supply a floor plan. I'm really excited about this because I was able to kind of have a little play around with it. On the left is the existing one, on the right is kind of my idea and what I would do if I was able to, say, move or knock a couple of walls down. So essentially what I would do is try and make two official bedrooms if at all possible. I'd make the existing bathroom into like a laundry storage room, and I would actually close off that hallway like I talked about and see if there was some way if you could put a macerator in or somehow manage to get some plumbing. Shouldn't be too hard, I say, not being a plumber or a geometer, if the plumbing's down that side of the wall anyway, but I'm actually just making that up. I don't really know for a fact if that could happen, but that would be my ideal, would be to make a nice big or a bigger bathroom where that small room is that was a bit of a thoroughfare, actually make that into an official hallway and then actually have two bedrooms. I'd also want to leave that window free that's near where I've got the laundry because I'd want to have some more light streaming in through there as well, because obviously you are looking at having quite a dark lounge and new lounge and kitchen if the walls were moved around, because you're not going to have any natural light coming in there. In the plans, it looks like there might be a window, but it's a tiny little thing, and I can't really confirm if it is. So for instance, if you're looking at where it says cucina, so kitchen, on the left hand floor plan, you can actually see along the right wall in the cucina kitchen, it looks like there is a little window there, but I'm not sure if that's been closed up over time or if it actually does let light in. If it did, that would be awesome for some natural light. But yeah, basically looking at the right, I kind of just whipped this up. Obviously, I don't do floor plans for a living, but that would be what I would do to make this place really livable. And to be honest, to move a few walls, the biggest expense here would be obviously putting in a new kitchen and a new bathroom. But yeah, I really like this one. So stick with me for the price. Now, property details. The pros for this is that because there's 5,000 people that live in this town, you get the 7% flat tax rate. I would Google that. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Really minimal reno when you think about it. Essentially a new bathroom, and it's economical. The price, wait till you hear the price. The cons, there are stairs if you have an issue with mobility. If you don't want to do the reno for a new bathroom, tiny bathroom, and no real views to speak of except for the street scene. So talking about what you can actually do, there's so many natural attractions in this area. So you've got thermal baths in Terma di Poppoli. I'm terrible with the accent, guys, so forgive me. You've got ski resorts that are nearby. You've got nature reserves, Maiella National Park, Gran Sasso. I mean, you've just got so many beautiful things around you that you can take advantage of. Just walk out the front door and you can take advantage of these things. In terms of cultural and historical sites, I actually went on a bit of a walked to, well, I tried to get to the Castello Cantelmo, uh, which if you go back and look at the specific Poppoli video, we had a cat that was following us. We made it about halfway up and then I gave up. But essentially what you'd be looking at here is there's a historic centre of Poppoli. There's lots of lovely things to look at. And then you've got Roman ruins and heritage buildings. So, I mean, you're basically surrounded by culture anyway. Now, infrastructure, super important to everyone. Water and electricity, plentiful, no issues that Google or anyone else has told me about. Internet, you've got high speed, you've got ADSL. I think that's it, ADSL. Fiber optic, emergency services as you would need, anything you need, police, emergency ambulance. And then you've got banking. So you've got some ATMs and some local banks. So you might need to spread out a bit further if you're wanting some major banks, but there's everything you need to get by. Now, in terms of food and shopping, there's hardware stores there. You've got some small home supply stores. So we're not talking about IKEA or any, we call them Bunnings in Australia, like it's a huge hardware store. But whatever that may be, you're not going to get that in Popoli, but there is some availability. You've got weekly markets, which is amazing. So, you'll have those, I think they are on a Wednesday. You've also got your bakeries and food and wine. You've got some clothing. If you wanted to really go out and, go shopping and grab some amazing things, then you might need to spread out again, maybe go to, say, Pescara, but otherwise, or Chieti. Otherwise, yeah, there's also lots of supermarkets to choose from. When I say lots for a small town, we're looking at 3 or 4, and they should supply everything that you need. Now, next, the important thing that people always ask, transport options. Now, it's a really walkable town, which is great because not only is it hilly, it's also quite flat in areas. So you've got some options there. Bike friendly. We've got the Popoli Vitorito train station, which will get you to all of the main hubs. So if you got onto the Popoli train, you can get to Sulmona, which will then take you to Rome, or you can get Pescara. There's local and regional bus services. Easy road access to the autostrada, so no issues there if you decide that you have a car, which is not something that I want to do. So the train station and the buses are really important to me as an option. We've also got Pescara Airport, which is your closest airport, but then you could kind of go a bit further if you needed to get to Rome. We're looking at, I think, about a half an hour, 1.5 hours to 2 hours to get to Rome for an airport, and it's about 45 minutes to get to Pescara. But you've definitely got options there. You could even potentially look at Napoli or Naples. Now, healthcare, you've got a small local hospital that does the basics. I don't think that you're going to have brain surgery there, but it's an option in a pinch. You've got local clinics and family doctors. Obviously, if you're an expat, you'd be looking at having private healthcare or looking at whatever your arrangement may be if you're not there as a resident. So that's something you'd have to look up. But the option is there to have local family clinics and doctors. Like I said, larger hospital nearby. You've got larger hospital in Sulmona, and then you've got Pescara. And then you've got general just things that you can do for your well-being, right? So if you want to go to the gym, or you want to have a thermal bath, or you want to do yoga or any of those sorts of things, it seems like from what I can see from my research, it's quite an active town. Like you've got lots of options. So when I say, healthcare, it's not just about if you need to go to the hospital, it's also about looking after yourself day to day and what you can take advantage of to stay healthy. Education, there's loads of options as far as I can see. So we've got preschool, we've got kindergarten, whatever it is that you call it. So from ages 3 to 6, I believe that is. You've then got primary school. I popped in something that says middle school there. In Australia, we don't really have middle school. It's basically preschool, primary and high, but you've got all of those options. There aren't any international schools in Popoli. You would have to go to Pescara and potentially Sulmona for an international school. But from what I can see from my research, a lot of the local Italian schools will support children in learning Italian if you want to send them somewhere locally. Now, for fun stuff, there's loads to do. I mean, just from some walking groups and outdoor clubs. You also have local food and wine festivals. You've got art exhibitions and concerts that come into town. There's I'm going to butcher this, I would say, the way I say it, September Popolisi, so the Popoli September Festival, and then you've got the Festival of St. Antonio Abate. So, look, if all you have to do is Google it, when I looked up, I basically could have named 10 other things that you can do for fun, but, the option is there to have the fun come to you, or hop on a train, hop on a bus, jump in your car, and go and find the fun. I mean, that's the whole point of moving to Italy in the first place. So, yeah, absolutely lots of options. Now, price, which is probably what you've been waiting for, 17,000 euros plus fees and taxes. I did reach out to the real estate agent for this one because I was very intrigued and said, what would the fees and taxes look like? Now, in most circumstances, you do have to pay the real estate agent as well. So in Australia, you don't pay the real estate agent if you're buying, only the seller does. In Italy, I believe that's different. She did get back to me and say that, without putting it in concrete, because obviously if I'm buying as someone from overseas, I might have some additional expenses, but just ones that she would mention off the top of her head. She did mention that 17,000, when you take into account any known fees and taxes, would likely turn into around 24,000 euros. However, again, you don't know what you need. So you may need to pay for a notary, you may need to pay for, other services that aren't encompassed in that price. But that's a pretty good price. Now we're going to talk about Sulmona. Population of 22,000. So we're really jumping up now in the, in the population stakes, which means more infrastructure. It's in the province of L'Aquila. I think I always say that incorrectly. L'Aquila. L'Aquila. Someone can tell me how to say it. I'm terrible when I butcher this language. For someone who loves Italy so much, I really, really should be a lot better at saying these things. But what can I do? So essentially, this next one is, look, I actually stood out front of it. So when I visited in October 2024, we actually went to Sulmona and I stood outside of this house because I've been intrigued by it for a little while. So obviously it's been for sale for a little bit. It doesn't look too flash in the pictures here. The exterior doesn't look fantastic. Standing outside of it, I can tell you it's in a pretty busy location. So, and what you can see on the exterior on the right-hand side picture was a little bit wet. There were drains. It didn't smell amazing, but I will say we walked up to it and my husband Greg basically said, "No, too busy here, not interested. Why would we move to a small town and live here?" But something just keeps drawing me back to this one, and I think you're going to see it, you'll see it in the next lot of pictures, because although it's in a busy spot, it's at a T intersection basically for some traffic lights, so you've always got traffic coming by. It's on one of the main thoroughfares, but also very, very, very close to the historic centre, which is fantastic. Literally 5-minute walk. Now, exterior entry looks great. You could do so much here to make it look beautiful again. I mean, those doors, that arch, it's just, can you expose stone? What the options here, I just feel like would be amazing. It's your own entrance. So when you walk in the door, you can see that kind of storage room ahead of you, and then the internal staircase off to the right. And then if you could visualize it, what you're not seeing is the bathroom off to the left. So the bathroom is downstairs. But look, I've seen worse bathrooms, trust me. This bathroom actually, for what we would normally see in one of these homes, it looks like it's in pretty good nick. So you've got some options there with how you could play around with that downstairs bathroom. I mean, if you were running in the door after a busy day out and you needed to go to the bathroom, it's super handy. So I think it would just need a bit more, like a bit of a freshen up. But sometimes these tiles speak to me as well. I love a little bit of retro. So yeah, it would be up to you. Anyway, when you come in the front door, you go up that internal staircase that was off to the right in our previous pictures, and this actually brings you straight into the kitchen. So there's really only one room per floor, so you're kind of going up a bit of a tower, but it looks like a nice sized kitchen. And the real big surprise here to me, and I would actually leave this as a kitchen, but the big surprise to me is what you can see out of these doors. The views just get better as you go up. That picture, I can vouch for the fact that I stood here and I looked at that view from ground level, and I can imagine as you go up in this home that it just gets better and better. Again, it is a busy intersection by small town, 22,000 population town standards. So you are taking that into account, but a couple of double glazed windows there, and even just being able to look out at the view, you could muffle a lot of that noise, I imagine. So there's different avenues that we're looking around the kitchen. It looks like, I mean, I would definitely rip this kitchen out. I'm not sure how I feel about the tiles. I think I'd have to see them in person. I'm personally like to keep as many characteristics as I can. Obviously, some are just old, dated, or can't be fixed. So, but it's a cute little kitchen, and I think that you could make it look really sweet. You would then go up the next level, so there's another lot of internal stairs, which brings you to what we're calling the bedroom. However, if you wanted it to be a one bedroom home, you could definitely make this a lounge room. So, we've walked up the stairs, we would walk into the kitchen. You could then walk up another set of stairs, which brings you to this bedroom slash lounge room. You could put it like a sofa bed in here if you wanted to for guests, but I personally like to have a lounge room. The view just keeps on getting better as you go further and further up. And then the next one, now this is the sad looking thing. Clearly we have some roof issues here. There's a couple of cracks in the wall, but water has managed to get in. Looks like there's some mold and some grossness there, so it definitely needs some work, don't get me wrong. But I would actually use this as my bedroom, and if there was any way to get any plumbing into this place somewhere else, I would definitely try and put a really small bathroom up there as well to get the most, because I don't want to be running down 20,000 stairs to go to the toilet. On the left is what you see at the top, so it's kind of an open bedroom, and then we've got our floor plan on the right. And as I say, bottom floor is just your entry, bathroom to the left, stairs to the right, small storage room in front of you. I would probably just leave that as it is. Go up, you've then got your kitchen. I would just put in a new kitchen because it probably needs some plumbing fixed and some freshening up. And then I would go up. I would actually turn the next level into a lounge room, or somewhere where you could put a sofa bed if you had guests. I'm really anti, unless you have a huge family, I'm not prepared to design any of the homes around the fact that you might get a visitor at some point. So I'd make that a sofa bed, and then obviously you'd have to jump onto any of those roof issues that you're having, but I would make that top floor into a bedroom, preferably with a little ensuite if possible. Property details are great. The pros, we got views, amazing views the further up you go in the home. The location is great, although it is a busy intersection. If that doesn't bother you, it's in the heart of everything. It's fantastic. You're in a large town, so you've got that infrastructure, which is great. Cons, it's no 7% flat tax rate because you have to be in a town under 20,000 is my understanding. So you're just over that in Sulmona, so you're not going to get that benefit there. Cons, obviously we can see there's some roof issues, and there's probably a million things we can't see as well, but renovation. And then there's the noise factor. I personally wanted to talk my husband into buying this place, and we would just put in some double glazed doors and windows, and hopefully you wouldn't hear that much traffic, and you can look out and enjoy those views. Now, natural attractions, it's a lot like Poppoli. Because they're in a similar area, you're going to benefit from the same natural attractions. You've got the Morona Mountains, you've got Roccaraso Ski Resort, #1 ski resort in Abruzzo, or maybe in Italy, I don't know, but all I know is that it's a very popular Roccaraso ski resort. You've got gorges, you've got national parks, you've got valleys, you've got plains. I mean, there's just so much to see and do. It almost makes me want to learn how to drive in Italy because I'm a bit scared, but I just think the things you could explore with a car would be amazing. Now, cultural and historical sites, Piazza Garibaldi. I mean, I stood in Piazza Garibaldi, and even just standing there when it was empty was just awe-inspiring. It's a beautiful place. I went to the confetti store, so Sulmona is famous for its confetti. I stood on the steps of the Sulmona Cathedral, but other things that just happen there daily. You have a museum, you have churches. I mean, there's a lot going on in that town. The day we went, it was pretty quiet, but we also went just after lunch, so I feel like that's when everyone goes off and has their little break, and then the town comes back alive. We were just there at the wrong time when it was super quiet. Infrastructure, same as Poppoli, plentiful water and electricity, no issues noted. You've got fast, high speed internet, you have all the emergency services you need, and then you also have some major banks. So you're basically just stepping up the availability of like the use of all of these different things because it's a higher population. You're going to see in Sulmona, you'll benefit from that. So there's no getting around the fact that the bigger the town, one would imagine the more infrastructure there is, and you'll benefit from that. But that's also reflected in usually higher prices for Sulmona. It's just the nature of the beast in any town that you go to. But definitely no worries here as far as I can see when it comes to infrastructure. Now, for food and shopping, I look bit like Popoli again. You've got your weekly markets, so I believe that happens on a Wednesday. You've got specialty artisan shops, so you've got bakeries, you've got cafes, you've got bars. You do have hardware and home supply stores. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking again about humongous places like Bunnings in Australia, but or whatever your equivalent is, whatever country you're in. But you can get what you need. You then this may have to kind of go a little further out for things like IKEA, and really big hardware stores go somewhere like Pescara. So there's no shortage of supermarkets. You've got lots of options there from bigger to smaller supermarkets, and then you've got clothing and hairdressers and all the things you need. Transport options just get better in Sulmona. Obviously, from Popoli, you usually go to Sulmona to get all of the big connections. Well, you're already in Sulmona. It's a walkable town. I had no issues walking. It's pretty flat, which is fantastic. There was a bit of a hike from the train station, so we caught the train to Sulmona and then we walked into town, or into the historical district and where the house was that I just showed you. I will say we kind of strolled along because we were checking things out, but it was a good 20-minute walk. But thankfully, there's lots of local and regional buses. So if we'd used our brains, we probably could have just caught a bus from the train station into the main area of town. Easy road access, as you saw in the picture. There's a T intersection there. That traffic's coming from some of the bigger places and from the freeway. And then again, we've got local access to airports, which would be Pescara, which is your closest, which is you can't fly everywhere there, but you can go to Rome and Napoli and the rest as well. Jumping straight into healthcare, we've got a bigger hospital again, so you could go to Pescara if you wanted to go to another big hospital, but there's nothing wrong as far as I can see with the Sulmona one. They do all of the things you need. There is, an ICU, there's an emergency, they do what you need essentially. Again, there's local clinics and family doctors like in Poppoli. But yeah, you could go to larger hospitals if you needed to. The beauty of it is that by Australian standards, everything's really, really close by. So, if you have to drive 2 hours to get somewhere, that's no big deal. So you could get to Rome in 2 hours from Sulmona. I mean, it's not a big deal to me in Australia. I think if you came from a smaller place, it might be, but doesn't bother me. All the things you need for well-being, as well as noted in Poppoli. Now, education is very similar to Poppoli as well. You've got lots of different options again. You've got preschool, kindergarten, primary school, middle school, high school. You've got some technical colleges. I think that's what you'd call them if you're American. Technical colleges. We would call it TAFE in Australia. So you've got lots of different options there. You don't have international schools as such. That's again, you would need to go to Pescara for that. But it seems to be that there is a lot of support for children who, if people move over to live in Italy and you're sending your children to school there, they're really supportive in terms of learning the Italian language. So a lot of people seem to want to bypass the international school and actually really immerse themselves in the culture so they can learn that Italian nice and quick. Now, fun, 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 fun. It's Abruzzo. I mean, everywhere you look, there's something to do, but there are some very specific festivals throughout the year. You've got International Street Food Festival, you've got wine tasting events and just not just the events, but you can actually go on trips and whatnot. So because it's a bigger town, they organize those things. You have different historical reenactments that you can do. You've got the Sulmona International Film Festival. I mean, there's just so much to do. So there was plenty to do in Poppoli, and then you just amp that up again in Sulmona. Now you must think, wow, how am I going to buy a house here? Well, the one I just showed you is actually 20,000 euros plus fees and taxes. So one might argue that if the one in Poppoli was 17 and we added on, what was that? That was another seven to get it around the 24,000 euro mark. One might say that you're really looking at about 30,000 euros when it's all said and done. However, I did notice that this has been for sale for a little while. I don't know if it's the roof or something else that's scaring people away, or maybe it's just that it's in a busy intersection and no one wants to live there. I don't know. I feel like I could give that up for those views. But anyway, Australian 37,000, which is so reasonable. Love it. So, guys, thanks for watching so much. I hope you enjoyed that. I really wanted to break the towns down a little more. Oftentimes you just get shown these houses, but you don't know anything else about the town and if it could actually be for you. So I wanted to add things in like transport and schools and whatnot and how appropriate it would be. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like, all the rest of it. Thank you.